2025 is almost over, and we'll do a little bit of a review of the year segment coming up much later. Welcome into PTN Extra. I'm Evan Kamikow here with the whole gang, Hayden Herrera and Mike Irwin. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody, or Happy New Year's Day if you're watching this tomorrow. Who knows when you're watching it, but thank you for watching the show. This is PTN Extra. Like I've said, Evan Kamikow, Hayden Herrera, Mike Irwin. Guys, it's been a busy week for Arkansas, even though it might not feel like it because football's kind of quiet. Women's basketball lost to Arkansas State. Really, when it comes to college basketball, John Calipari has been at the center of all media talk this entire week on his comments earlier from your question that you asked about NIL, the transfer portal, Baylor bringing in somebody who was drafted in 2023 to their team. Mike, I want to open the floor with you first. You've been here for a while. You've seen what this game has become. You know now where it's going. What do you make of Cal's comments when it comes to the transfer portal, eligibility, and NIL?
Well, he's a coach that's speaking out about what just happened, which is a guy that was drafted by the NBA. He didn't play in the NBA, was drafted, has now been allowed to come back and can be eligible in the next semester at Baylor. And what he's basically saying is we've allowed this to happen and we've allowed it to happen because we're all scared of lawsuits. And the main thing I got out of what he said was we're going to have to allow ourselves to be sued in order to solve this. Don't be afraid of the suits. Countersue. Say, okay, you sued me, I'm suing you back. Because if you don't do that, we're just going to continue to have this thing erode and erode and erode, and who knows where it stops. You might end up with people in the NBA going, I got cut by a team, I'm going back and play college. And then what happens if it's in the NFL? NFL player comes back and plays on a college team? This nonsense has to stop.
At what point does it stop, Hayden?
Oh, well, I want the shirts that with Cal's quote, the rules bees the rules. And yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to have to come to some sort of lawsuit. Of course, with John Calipari, I think he's hoping that doesn't directly involve him and it's another school that's kind of the guinea pig, or the NCAA, Charlie Baker, that are the main impetus for that. But he made some great points saying that, if all of these rules don't apply to the European players, then what's to stop a high school kid from doing whatever they want? Mm-hmm. It's just gotten so crazy. And, Cal's not the only coach that's spoken about it, but he's definitely the most vocal, and his voice carries a lot of weight in the world of college basketball. So it doesn't seem like anything's going to get fixed soon, but you'd like to see the wheels start turning at some point.
Yeah, ESPN had bites from Matt Painter and Steve Peichel, two Big Ten coaches who have been at their respective schools. Feels like forever, especially Painter, who his Purdue teams have been really good the last couple of years. Rutgers, everyone knows you don't want to play at the rack, but what's important is they all kind of echo that sentiment. They were running bites from Mark Few and some of the other coaches as well during that, all because of what Charlie Baker came out and said, and that's basically, look, yeah, you can go and do these things because it's all about contracts, and if these guys aren't getting paid, and international players versus American players, but I think at the end of the day, it's all said and done, right? Like, the second that you sign an NBA contract, you should not be able to come back to college athletics. Cal also went on and said, eventually this might happen in the NFL, where these guys who are getting drafted but not necessarily getting paid are going to go back and play college football yet again. So I think it's a really big issue, not just in basketball, but eventually what Cal alluded to is this could bleed over to football, baseball, so on and so forth, Mike.
Yeah, again, and the part I find interesting, and we go all the way back to this years ago when this original Supreme Court ruling came out, and the NCAA defined what this all meant, and they said, okay, endorsements. That's what it was supposed to be. You can go get an endorsement, but it has to be a true endorsement. And what happened was these schools started using these endorsements as thinly disguised. We'll bring you in here and pay whatever we want. We'll pay a lot of money. And they turned it into recruiting, which it wasn't supposed to be. But then the lawsuits came. Mm-hmm. And everything that's happened since then has been out of a fear of lawsuits. And he's the first guy I've ever heard that said, go ahead and sue us. Let's just say sue us and see what happens. Because in his opinion, that's the only way it can get resolved.
Yeah, the sue us. It wasn't like a subtle, like, oh, maybe it was sue us and we will sue back, Hayden.
Yeah, going back to your point, though, yeah, imagine if this blends over into other sports. Say Andrew Armstrong. What if he had just come back to Arkansas this past season?
And then, it's how many years are you going to allow somebody to play? Yeah. 8 years? What? I mean, Cal had mentioned earlier, he was using a theoretical example or hypothetical, but a guy walks by, he's got his wife up in the stands with his 2 kids, and he's using his NIL money to support his family, and he's 28 years old or whatever.
Fox 16's Courtney Mims with the alimony bite. Everybody saw that on social media. It just feels like where we're going in college basketball isn't healthy for the sport, and you're trying to get ahead of it, but it's the same thing with football. There's only so much time you can actually get ahead of it before it all starts to backfire on you, and you're seeing these issues come back to light.
Yeah, and there's so many. I mean, college, even before this, college basketball kind of had its problem. There's always been debate about expanding the NCAA tournament, things like that. We don't need another problem to weigh us down. Not only weigh us down, but cataclysmically change what could happen. It's troubling times for sure.
Yeah, it's got to stop. And the question is, how soon does it stop? Because the longer this goes on, and we're not just talking about this issue, there's a lot of other issues about unlimited NIL, actually overlooking the court's house settlement and just saying, that doesn't matter, we're going to push you until you sue us, and then we'll sue you back or whatever. Until this all gets resolved, let's continue to cheat.
Yeah, and the cheating is only going to go on, so on, and so on, and so on until this comes to an end. But it's just been really fascinating to see the outcry on social media about this, because you have a lot of coaches who are in support of it, but you also have a lot of athletes who are kind of against it. And it feels like it's a twofold issue of going to the league, getting paid, getting drafted. From my experience, I thought the second you sign a pro contract, you cannot play college basketball because the NCAA rules. This kind of backfires on all of it, because you've got these guys who are playing in NBA games and now are going to go back to college basketball. So it's fascinating what's going to happen, whether it's going to just be international players or American players as well. But you got to think at some point the Americans who are being left out of this are going to come back, and you're going to have even more lawsuits. So who knows when this ends? It's something very interesting to keep an eye on at home. Let us know in the comments what you think of this whole Coach Cal situation as it unfolds. We'll keep updating you guys on new PTN Extras and more on as this story continues to develop. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about men's hoops. Arkansas men's basketball. They open SEC play this weekend against Tennessee in what should be a game featuring 2 of the best freshman guards in the entire country. Tennessee's Nate Ament, as well as Darius Acuff Jr., Malik Thomas as well, coming off a career high. Mike, your first thoughts on this SEC opener in Fayetteville?
Well, I watched Tennessee again the other night, and they were playing a team with 1 win, so it's hard to judge, but I watched them in other games too. They beat Houston, but then they lost 3 in a row. Now they've bounced back lately. These 2 teams look fairly evenly matched, but when I watch Arkansas, there's a bunch of SEC teams that have looked really good. I don't think they're going to get 14 in like they did last year in the tournament, but there's at least 10 that are really good. The thing that concerns me, I think Arkansas is as good offensively as any of them, maybe as any team in the country. I don't like their defense right now. It's too soft. They lose focus. They let somebody on-ball defense, they let a guy dribble right into the lane too many times. You get too many wide-open layups, dunks, alley-oops. They got to stop that stuff, and they got to defend the three-point line a lot better. And I'm just telling you, Tennessee can do all of that stuff. So defense, I think, is going to decide this game. They're going to have to step it up.
I mean, when you look at this matchup, I think no matter who was on the schedule for Arkansas in their first SEC game, I think the big thing fans have in the back of their head is 0-5, 0-5, 0-5. They do not want to see what that start to SEC play like last year. And, I don't think that will happen regardless of, even if Arkansas were to lose. Yeah. I just can't see an 0-5 with this team happening. But, we saw, besides Cal's comments, there was a game to be played on Monday, and there was a lot to learn from that. It looked like Malik Thomas took a lot from Cal's comments after the Houston game, saying he needs them to show up. He had a lot of time to sit and think about that over the Christmas break. Came out, of course, James Madison, not the world beaters that Houston or Texas Tech or any of those other top ranked teams that Arkansas had played, but you could tell he was motivated. I mean, he shot 6 of 10 from 3. He was not afraid to just let it rain. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I think the crowd will be, they got the stripe out going. The crowd actually, I want to say the crowd was actually surprisingly good for Monday's game against James Madison. I thought with the fact that the temperature had changed like 60 degrees in 24 hours, I thought that was going to keep people out. But probably after the Louisville game, it was probably the second biggest non-conference attendance for Bud Walton so far.
And the crowd weighs a lot, especially when you get to these non-con games. Luckily for Arkansas, you do face Ole Miss in their second game.
Yep.
So you'd like to think you could beat a bad Chris Beard team on the road. But again, that's on the road. So when you're looking at the crowd, you've got to factor in, I think, 5 to 6 points. And for a Saturday, a 2 o'clock game, Bud Walton should be close to sold out. I don't want to say it will be, but it should be close to that. And it's just going to be a really fun game, Mike, between these two teams.
Yeah, they need to stress the revenge aspect of this game because it was Tennessee that started them on that 5-game losing streak, and they beat Arkansas by like 24 points. It was embarrassing. Now, that was in Knoxville. So the attitude should be, okay, fine, you did that. Now watch what happens to you when you come here. I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee by 24, but beat them convincingly by playing better defense. I mean, you mentioned Malik Thomas. Okay, now he's scoring again. How many assists did he have? How many rebounds did he have? What kind of defense did he play? He's still not what Acuff is. Acuff is out there doing things to help you win. And they've got to have more guys that are out there doing more than just scoring. You got to look at assists. You got to look at rebounding. How aggressive are you? Tennessee's got some bigs. They can play inside. So what kind of defense are you going to play on these guys? And is Pringle going to – he looked a little better. Now he needs to continue to get better. He needs to score, but he needs to feed other people inside. He needs to rebound. This game is going to be big in terms of in the paint and what happens because Tennessee can play in the lane around the basket.
And Hayden, before we go to break, it's going to be vital, in my opinion, that you avoid that big run in the first half. You saw it against Texas Tech where they went on, I want to say, a 15-0 run at one point. And luckily, Arkansas able to win that game. But against Houston, against Duke, they really weren't able to match up being as down as they were after that early run. That's going to be really key for me.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to kind of Mike's point. We've been talking about it at various different shows. The big guys, Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan. It's kind of put up or shut up time for these guys. You know, Pringle has the SEC experience. I haven't seen what his stats were against Rick Barnes' teams in his career at South Carolina and Alabama. Maybe we can do a little deep dive into that later in the week. But from Malik Ewan's side, it does seem like he's gathering confidence. He seems, you know, of course they haven't played an SEC game yet, so that's still a lot to say. But as far as just him being a part of this unit, seems like things are progressing well. But for Pringle, yeah, we saw a little bit of a step up in just his play, overall attitude. But this game, yeah, it could go a long way towards what we see for the future as this SEC schedule unfolds.
It's important to set the tone early in SEC play this year. Well, stick around. We'll be right back on PTN Extra. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk some football portal about to open up. You won't want to miss it. Stick around. We'll be right back. Back here on PTN Extra, closing out 2025. Evan Kamikow, Hayden Herrera, Mike Irwin. Guys, we've talked basketball. Let's talk football. Well, the season's been over for about a little over a month. The portal just about to heat up. Some guys have gone in, some guys have stayed. We already know who's going where. Mike, what's key for you when the portal opens for Ryan Silverfield's staff to start getting fans back engaged into this team?
Well, fans are looking for two things. They're looking to see if you can go grab somebody from some other SEC team or another Power 4 team. You know, if they can grab LSU has a couple of offensive linemen out there. Okay, if you got both of them, that would be a good sign. So they're looking for things like that. But they're also looking for, you know, how much money are you spending? Is there evidence that you've got more money than you did before? Now, everybody I talked to said yes. They not only have more money, they have a lot more money. Okay, it was just announced this week that there's a new collective. You've got this sort of fan collective that was started a few months ago, maybe a month ago, and it's going, and they have issued a statement that they like this new professional collective this will take the place of the former agreement that Arkansas had, which totally bombed. There's only about 4 clients with this new company, but one of them is A&M. So the implication is, wow, if A&M is partnering with this company, this may be legit. Here's the problem. According to the House settlement, which is administered by the College Sports Commission, starting with this portal, they're going to reduce NILs, big, large NIL settlements or payments. Okay, are they going to enforce that? And we don't know what's going to happen, but there's already threats of lawsuits. Once again, well, you can do whatever you want, but we're not going to do this because we're going to sue you. So what happens then? Well, Yurchek came out and talked about this new collective, and he said, as in terms of what they're going to do, he said, we're going to operate within legitimate NIL. And people started thinking, oh, wow, that means he's not going to really offer any very good NIL deals because it's all going to be reduced, and he's scared. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. I think he's using good language, but I think what he's really saying is, okay, we're going to do what everybody else does until we're told we can't offer these big deals. We're going to offer them because I keep being told the money is out there. So I don't think they're going to be offering a bunch of big dollar amounts to people. If they have the money, that's what they're going to do. What are they going to do with it if they don't give it back? I mean, come on.
It's great that, Hayden, you have all of this money, supposedly, right? But I think there's a difference between spending smart and spending to spend, right? If you spend smart, maybe you don't get a lot of guys in. They need a lot of guys to fill this roster. But if you spend smart, it's the areas of need like Mike mentioned, rather than spending to spend. It's just spending who's ever out there and figuring it out, right? It's plug and play versus trying to be smart and mimic some of these other schools that have turned their programs around in 1 year. Arizona State, Indiana. You've seen some of these lower teams be able to spend smart in the portal. Where does Arkansas have to do that?
Yeah, you could start it anywhere on the defense, I feel like. You see so many of these, we've been keeping track of who's announced on social media that they plan to enter the portal when it officially opens on Saturday, and it seems like so many come from the defense. And, from the ones that, between those, ones that have graduated, it's just going to be basically it'll be Quincy Rhodes and a whole new cast of characters, basically, which for a team that went 2-10, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. When you look at where they have to spend smart, and I really wish we got to speak with Ryan Silverfield immediately after the portal closes just to kind of get his sense. I think once we talk with him, we'll get a real sense of what his goals are. But when it kind of goes back to what Mike was saying, for the average fan, if they see a Power 4 addition, they'll kind of get a little bit excited. They'll also like to compare, though, like, oh, who did this SEC team get compared to us? And it can be hard, especially, I don't want to call anybody out, but, I take a player like Cam Shanks last year when it was announced he was coming to Arkansas. Look at all this. I believe he had some sort of All-American list. Or
he was a punt returner, yeah.
Yeah, he had some accolades, and people were just like, no offense, he probably won't go down in Arkansas lore as someone that'll be greatly remembered, and whether that's his fault or not, But I'm just saying, a name can only mean so much. So it will take a little bit. We might not know until spring ball what's in the mind of Silverfield and his assistants of who they were trying to get.
I think you make a great point there of we don't really know until we hear from Silverfield. But I want to get both of your reactions to this because I find this interesting where guys are now coming out in their social media accounts now that are saying X person has signed, X person has extended his contract with these schools. Again, we talked about it in basketball. You're moving closer and closer to the pro model where if you're staying at your school, no, your contract wasn't extended. Like, you're just staying where you are. Mike, where have you seen this change, and why is it so fascinating that this is the trend we're going in where guys are now going on social media and saying, nope, I'm staying put. This is my home. Like, it's college.
Yeah, but everybody knows what it means when they did that. I mean, they didn't just stay because, some of them may have, but most of them still got the money they wanted. You can't tell me that KJ Jackson came back because they didn't offer him anything. He's still getting the same NIL deal that he did last year. I got to believe it's going up big time. Quincy Rhodes, go up,
Yeah.
And in terms of using this money and how well do you use it, they've now got one of the top GMs, supposedly reputation-wise, in the country. And I don't believe they brought him on board if they didn't have a lot. If they expected just a small raise in the NIL money they were going to spend, why would you need him? Because you just have a certain amount of it. Why would he be interested? He would be interested if he knew there was going to be a big increase in NIL money available and he had to manage it and say, okay, you can spend this much money on this guy, but wait a minute, he's asking too much, this guy isn't. That's what his expertise is. So that's going to be a separate thing to look at once these portal names start. And I could be wrong, but I think most of it's going to be over in a few days, not 2 weeks. Right. So then you're going to start looking at, okay, why did we end up with this guy as opposed to that guy? And that's the decision that he makes. This guy is more valuable than that guy. And does he run into a foul with Silverfield's attitude of, if it's an Arkansas kid, we would rather get him? What if he says, yeah, but this guy's better, let's, equal amount of money, let's get this guy, he's better. Well, no, we want the Arkansas guy. So it's really going to be interesting to see how all that works.
We're almost in like a legal tampering period, Hayden.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Mike brings up a good point. If it starts to come out on Saturday and there's not as many names that we thought we would hear that are coming to Arkansas, does that mean they lost out on the bidding war? Yeah, and as if more days go on and it's January 8th and they're finally adding someone. Yeah, I think the fans will start to get a little jumpy. Yeah.
The good news is no one's hitting the panic button just yet. All right, one last break here on PTN Extra. I was going to say the Pig Trail Show, guys. I'm still in vacation mode. When we come back, we're talking our favorite moments from 2025 with the new year right around the corner. Stick around. We'll be right back. One last time of the year. Wrapping up shop today on PTN Extra. Evan Kamikow, Hayden Herrera, Mike Irwin with you. Guys, 2025 is over. I can't believe it. It's wild. 2026 right around the corner. That makes me a year closer to 30, which is scary. Or really, a year closer to 25, I should say. But let's have some fun. It's 2026. We're looking back at 2025. Mike, we'll start with you. What's your favorite moment of this past year for Arkansas?
It had to be Gage Woods. Perfect game at the College World Series. Only been done 3 times ever. Hadn't been done in a million years. Plus, he set a record for strikeouts in a 9-inning game and did it at the College World Series. To me, that was the biggest single individual accomplishment of the whole year.
Sitting there was just awesome to watch that. 19 strikeouts, you've kind of mentioned it. The no-hitter, just really cool, Hayden.
I'll probably go, if it wasn't Gage Wood, it had to be Arkansas basketball winning in Lexington. Just seeing Cal go back on the floor
huge.
at Rupp Arena, I loved in the post-game tunnel, he's yelling, Billy, Billy! I'll always remember that, just watching on ESPN. So that season wasn't what they hoped for, but it was still a memory that Hog fans will live on forever.
I mean, man, you guys picked like the 2 best ones. I don't know if I can even top that. I'll go with mine, seeing 4 different Razorbacks in 4 different sports win their respective players of the year. Yeah. We knew Briellis was going to do it. That was the no-brainer, her doing it in softball. Vahiva Aloy doing it, but winning the Golden Spikes was fascinating because you had 3 different players win 3 different big baseball awards, so we didn't know who would get the Heisman of baseball, and luckily it came to the Hill, the first time ever baseball and softball have won that award in the same year. And then again, Maria Jose Marin winning it for golf was really fun. She won the individual NCAA title, and then Jordan Anthony winning the Bowerman about 12 days ago was awesome to watch. So seeing Arkansas get 4 National Players of the Year was really cool. Any thoughts, guys, as we wrap up 2025?
I mean, it was quite a year, yeah. The Diamond Sports are just around the corner. We'll see how basketball shapes out on the men's and women's side. But, 2026 shaping up to be pretty fun.
My thoughts are that basketball and baseball have a lot of pressure on them right now because of what happened in football. People have now turned away from that. Once we get past this portal and you sort of go, okay, maybe things will be okay for football, we'll put that out of our minds. Now you got to do something in those 2 sports. I've already had somebody tell me, a little birdie told me, that they're a little bit concerned over at baseball with their pitching. They feel like it's got to get better, and that may be the difference. If they get to Omaha again, the pitching has got to get better in January going into February and then as they move forward. So a little bit worried about that, and I've already mentioned my fears of basketball. If their defense has to get better, they're not going to do what we want them to do.
It's always going to be fun to see, again, baseball season, softball season right around the corner. Dave Van Horn hoping for his first national title in 2026. Well, for everyone at home, thank you for tuning in to PTN Extra, hanging out with me, Mike Irwin, Hayden Herrera, the rest of the gang all year long. It's been a fun year of 2025. We can't wait to see what 2026 has in store. To the people behind this camera that make this show happen, thank you guys. It's been a fun year. We'll see you in 2026 on PTN Extra.